Have you ever noticed how your world stays loud even when everything around you is quiet? You lie in bed at night and your thoughts refuse to slow down. You finally sit down to rest, yet your mind keeps racing. Your body is still, but your heart feels crowded. It's as if noise has followed you inward. Today we're talking about a spiritual discipline almost no one practices anymore: silence and solitude with God. It was a discipline Jesus lived by, a discipline the early church embraced, and a discipline modern believers deeply need, yet constantly avoid. If your soul feels exhausted, anxious, distracted, or spiritually dry, this message is for you. Let's go deeper together. When was the last time you were truly quiet? Let me ask you something simple. When was the last time you experienced real silence? Not just pausing conversation, not scrolling quietly on your phone, not background noise playing while you rest. I mean true stillness. No distractions, no entertainment, no notifications. Just you, your breath, and God. For many people, silence feels uncomfortable, even frightening. But here is a truth Scripture quietly teaches. Silence is not empty. Silence is full of God. Solitude is not loneliness. It is meeting God without interruption. A generation drowning in noise. We live in a world saturated with stimulation. Noise in our headphones, noise in our feeds, noise in our schedules, noise inside our thoughts. We wake up to noise. We work through noise. We escape into noise. We fall asleep surrounded by noise. And then we wonder why hearing God feels difficult. Psalm 36:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." Yet stillness has become one of the hardest practices for modern believers. Even Jesus chose solitude. If anyone seemed too busy for solitude, it was Jesus. He healed the sick. He taught crowds. He carried divine purpose. And yet, Scripture repeatedly says, Jesus withdrew to lonely places to pray. He rose early to be alone with the Father. He stepped away from crowds that desperately wanted him. Imagine the disciples searching for him. They're looking for you. The people need you. There's more work to do. But Jesus walked away from the noise. Why? Because he understood something we often forget. The presence of God gives more strength than the approval of people. If Jesus needed solitude, how much more do we? Why we feel spiritually exhausted. Many believers try to serve God without spending time with God. We attempt spiritual battles without spiritual rest. We run on empty and wonder why our faith feels weak. Solitude was never optional for Jesus. It was essential. What happens when you sit quietly with God? When you enter silence with God, something begins to change. 1. Your soul detoxes. Stress, anxiety, and emotional clutter rise to the surface, not to overwhelm you, but to be healed. 2. You begin to hear God more clearly. God rarely shouts. Scripture often sees him speaking in a gentle whisper. A loud soul cannot hear a quiet voice. 3. You rediscover who you are. Not your achievements, not your roles, just you before God. Silence removes the masks we wear. 4. Spiritual hunger returns. Many people say they feel distant from God. Often, the issue isn't distance, it's distraction. 5. Quiet strength develops. Isaiah 30:15 reminds us, "In quietness and trust is your strength." True strength sometimes grows in stillness, not activity. Solitude throughout Scripture. Solitude runs through the entire Bible. Moses spent 40 days alone with God and returned transformed. David hid in wilderness caves and wrote songs of deep intimacy. Daniel paused daily to pray despite pressure. John the Baptist was shaped by the wilderness before his ministry began. And before major moments, choosing disciples, performing miracles, facing the cross, Jesus sought solitude. What many modern Christians lack is not passion or opportunity, it is silence. Why we avoid being alone with God? If we're honest, solitude feels difficult for several reasons. Silence exposes what we usually avoid: fears, wounds, insecurities. Our brains are addicted to stimulation. We confuse solitude with loneliness. We fear God might not speak. And distraction feels easier than healing. We use noise to escape ourselves. God often uses silence to restore us. How to begin practicing silence? You don't need a retreat center or a mountain. You only need intention. Start simply. Choose a consistent time, even 5 or 10 minutes. Find a quiet place. Come without an agenda. Slow your breathing. Pray a simple invitation. Lord, I'm here. Let thoughts come and go without fighting them, and with gratitude. Simple, quiet, powerful. Growing deeper over time. As this becomes a habit, you can deepen the practice. Take short breaks from digital devices. Meditate slowly on a single Bible verse. Walk without music, noticing God's presence. Journal after silence. Set aside longer quiet times occasionally. This is not about rules, it is about relationship. What begins to change? Over time, silence reshapes your inner life. You become less reactive. Clarity replaces confusion. Peace becomes familiar instead of rare. You become more present and grounded. Your desire for God grows naturally. Spiritual depth replaces surface faith. Solitude becomes the soil where maturity grows. A personal invitation. Let me ask you something gently. When was the last time you slowed down enough for God to refresh your soul? When was the last time you allowed stillness to settle your heart? Your soul is not tired of God. Your soul is tired of rushing. Jesus says, "Come to me and I will give you rest." Not come to distraction, not come to productivity. Come to me. A simple challenge. Today, give God 10 quiet minutes. No music, no requests, no noise, just presence. Because in that silence, God strengthens, heals, comforts, and restores. Solitude is not escaping life. It is returning to the source of life. Silence is not empty. It is sacred. And God meets those who slow down long enough to notice Him.